All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome. I should say welcome to MAGFest, Super MAGFest 2026. This is probably one of the first things. Woo! Yeah. This is probably one of the first things you're doing, and I can't be more grateful for all of you for coming out for this. This is really awesome. It's a really great turnout. My name's Angel. I'll be your host today for Punk's Still Not Dead, Killing the Past and Exploring the Sudaverse. So the title, as you may notice, is Punk's Still Not Dead, because this panel is actually a bit of a sequel to a panel that I did last MAGFest. Were any of you here in attendance for that panel? We got a couple people. All right, that's pretty awesome, but we have a lot of new faces. That's really cool too. This panel is intended to be accessible for really all fans and all people, whether or not you have played any of these games or whether you have. There's a bit of mix of slides that I've used before, some new stuff, so it'll be great for everybody. So let's go ahead and kick things off. So our agenda for today is we're going to be starting out with the games in the Kill the Past continuity. So I'll explain what that means in a little bit, but there is a series of games developed by Japanese game developer Suda51 and his company Grasshopper Manufacture. And within his game catalog, he has a set of games called the Kill the Past series, and we're gonna go through all those games today, so you get to learn about them. Then we're gonna talk a little bit about like some fun character cameos and crossover appearances within these Kill the Past games. And then we're gonna talk about what does Kill the Past even mean anyway? Because you hear that phrase thrown around all the time in reference to Suda51 and his works, and it can be a little mind-boggling, as his games tend to be, but we'll go over it a little bit. And finally, we'll talk about Suda's characters and ways in which they have attempted to kill their past. I will say, like I said, I try to make this panel for everyone, so I'm going to try to remain as spoiler-free as possible, because these games are games that you really should experience for yourself. Like, one and done, they're great. I don't want to spoil anything for anyone. Part of my fondest memories are reaching the climactic moments of these games and having my mind absolutely blown by Suda's madness. Like, he's a genius madman, and we love him for it. So, like I said, the Kill the Past series is a subsect of the overall Sudaverse. So Suda51 has pretty much said, yes, my games exist in an overarching universe. But he doesn't always make that clear. It's not like, with the exception of the No More Heroes series, it's not like the games are titled Silver Case 1, Silver Case 2, you know, it's not that simple. You may be wondering, where do I start with this? Like, how do I get the most out of it? So that's what this panel is here to kind of help elucidate, because there's a lot of games and it can be a little overwhelming for some people. But just know that today I'm not going to be focusing on every single game that Grasshopper Manufacture has made, not going to be focusing on every game that Suda has even made. Again, focusing on these games that exist in this Kill the Past timeline, because again, this is where a lot of people want to start and a lot of people want to know this about Suda's works. So with that all being said, let's go ahead and get started with our very first game, The Silver Case. This is one of my favorite games of all time. I played it once and immediately had to play it again because I was so enthralled, so enraptured, also a little confused, but that's, you know, to be said from Suda's writing. I may be saying that a couple times throughout this panel today. But anyway, The Silver Case is more or less the beginning of the Kill the Past timeline. Some of you out there might be saying, but Angel, what about Twilight Syndrome? What about Moonlight Syndrome? Yes, those games also exist. Those are games that Suda51 worked on under his previous company, Human Entertainment. And while Moonlight Syndrome, the ending does kind of directly lead to The Silver Case, you don't have to play it to really wholly understand The Silver Case or the Sudaverse. We'll call it, you know, like a Kill the Past adjacent sort of game. So the best place to start really though, and the most accessible place to start, is The Silver Case. So the Silver Case is a PS1 game that was remastered and localized many, many years later and ported to PS4 and Nintendo Switch. So that all that is to say this game is very accessible. You can play it on any modern platform. It is a visual novel style adventure game with like point and click navigation and also puzzle solving. That's skippable. And it is set in the fictional 24 wards of Tokyo. So essentially, like in real life, there are 23 wards within Tokyo, but this is a new fictional 24th ward, a utopia, as they say, where, plenty of people live, but there's also plenty of crime there. So in the Silver Case, it follows a group of detectives known as the Heinous Crimes Unit in a story called Transmitter, and then it also has a story called Placebo, which follows a guy who's just some guy, but really he's a reporter, and he finds out that he's more than just some guy as the games progress. But basically, like I said, there's two concurrent narratives, Transmitter and Placebo. And as you play them, you want to start with the Transmitter side, but you want to start with Transmitter Chapter 1, and then hop over to Placebo Chapter 1, then Transmitter 2, Placebo 2, like that. And I know that seems confusing, but the Placebo side of the story helps to kind of elucidate some of the weird ongoings in the Transmitter side of the story. So that's just how it was intended to be read and how it was written, even though it was written by multiple people, not just Suda himself. So it's kind of a really cool collaborative effort. Like I said, the Silver Case is truly a mind-blowing game. It is such an interesting commentary on the nature of communication, on the role of the internet in communication, and especially keep in mind the story was written in the late 90s. So it feels very much ahead of its time. Almost at some points I'm like, did Suda predict Twitter? Like, did he, what? Because there is a scene in the Silver Case where you're like, hold up, why are they talking about tweets and Twitters? Could just be a translation thing, but it's very much ahead of its time, and it's a great game, and this is where I would recommend anyone to start if they want to dive into this Kill the Past world. So the next game that came out, and I should have mentioned, I'm going over these games chronologically, not necessarily in the order that you should play them. I'm going over them in release order, just as an aside. So the next game that was released in the Kill the Past series is Flower, Sun, and Rain. So this is a little gem of a game that was originally came out on the PS2 and was localized and ported to the Nintendo DS a little bit later. It is an adventure game, and by that I mean it's kind of a walking simulator almost. Before walking sims even existed, you do a lot of walking in this game. But you also do a lot of puzzle solving. It's very numerical in nature. You really just have to know codes or birthdays or various things. It's not very difficult. The most interesting thing about Flower, Sun, and Rain, or one of the most interesting things, is that it's actually a stealth sequel to the Silver Case. So it's not exactly advertised as being a sequel. Like I mentioned, Suda gets a little weird with that. But once you hit the climax and the ending of Flower, Sun, and Rain, you're like, oh, I should have played the Silver Case first. This would have made way more sense. And it doesn't help that this game, we American audiences were exposed to this game before we were exposed to the Silver Case in terms of localization. So there are tons of people out there that played Flower, Sun, and Rain, hit the ending, and had no idea what was going on because they had no way to play the Silver Case first. Thankfully, I was able to play the Silver Case before I experienced Flower, Sun, and Rain, so I was not left completely in the dark. So anyway, Flower, Sun, and Rain is set on Lost Pass Island, which is a fictional remote paradise, and it follows Sumio Mondo, whose name is very similar to a detective from the Silver Case, whose name is Sumio Kodai. So it's a bit of a mystery why their names are similar. You kind of have to play the game to find out. But Sumio Mondo is a searcher whose main quest is to prevent a plane explosion, and he gets interrupted over and over and over again. And by that I mean it's pretty much a Groundhog's Day style plot. That's not a real spoiler, it's like Groundhog's Day. Sumio wakes up every morning with the same mission in mind, but something wacky happens and he's unable to do it. There'll be professional wrestlers who need help and kids who want to kick you in the shins, and it's really annoying French guys that like soccer. I don't know. There's a lot of really wacky characters in Flower, Sun, and Rain that you get to meet. So it's definitely worth visiting. And like I said, it is a sequel to The Silver Case. So if you want to know what's going on a little bit more with some of the characters, this is where you go next. So next in release timeline, we have the cult classic and the well-beloved Killer 7. Yeah, let's give it up for Killer 7. This game is, like I said, considered Suda's magnum opus in a way. It is a Nintendo GameCube and PS2 game, but it was ported to PC, so you can play this like on Steam at any time. It was produced by Shinji Mikami of Resident Evil fame, and it was also published by Capcom, and it was the first Grasshopper Manufacture game to be released outside of Japan. So it was Suda's first time really writing and directing with a global audience in mind. So Killer 7 is an on-rails first-person shooter, but it has third-person action-adventure and puzzle-solving segments. And in this game, you play as one of the diverse members of the Smith Syndicate, who is a group of assassins. It's 7 assassins, but they all exist within one individual who kind of has a certain... I don't know how to exactly explain it, but anyway, it's one individual who has multiple personalities within them, and they're all assassins, and they all come out, and they all have their own weapons and play styles, and like I said, they're very diverse, very unique, and it's very cool. Most of the jobs that the Killer 7 has to execute are like political in nature, so that is one kind of reoccurring theme in the Kill the Past series is politics and how they affect society. But also in the same time in Killer 7, the assassins have to fight off a terrorist organization who has released a Heaven Smile virus, and those are your main like baddies and monsters that you're fighting are people infected by this virus. I will say Killer 7's interesting in terms of being a Kill the Past game because it definitely does not exist in the same universe as the Silver Case or Flower, Sun, and Rain. And I say this because in Killer 7, air travel and the internet have been abolished completely in an attempt to basically thwart terrorism. Like all countries got rid of their nuclear weapons and a great grand fireworks show, as they say, and there's supposedly peace between nations because of this. So Killer 7's a bit of an anomaly because you're like, all right, well, airplanes are important in Flower, Sun, and Rain, and the internet is very important in the Silver Case. So, again, it's a bit odd, but it definitely thematically is a Kill the Past game. So the next game we have is the advertised direct sequel to the Silver Case. This game's known as The 25th Ward. It was a mobile game, actually, and it was released starting in 2005 and released episodically over a number of years. I don't know how many years, maybe until like 2007 or 2008. So it was a long-running mobile release game. And it was actually considered a ghost game or a lost game because there was no way to play it if you did not have a Japanese phone, and then when those servers went down, the game was gone. So they had to remake the game basically from the ground up and localized it for PC and PS4 finally, so we got to experience this crazy piece of media. And it was also ported to Nintendo Switch and was bundled with the Silver Case, so you can actually get both games bundled together. It's very nice. They also frequently go on, I'm just gonna plug this real quick, they go on sale on Steam like all the time, and they go on sale together, so if you're ever interested in these games, Steam is definitely the place to go to check them out. So anyway, the 25th Ward, just like the Silver Case, is a visual novel adventure game with a bit more puzzle solving than its predecessor. It's set a number of years after the original Silver Case and follows a new group of detectives, a brand new heinous crimes unit, as well as a group of assassins that belong to the Regional Adjustment Bureau, and then that same journalist from the Silver Case makes another reappearance. So this time, instead of being 2 concurrent narratives, there are 3 different narratives called Correctness, Matchmaker, and Placebo, once again. In this, you can kind of play it, you can kind of read it in any order. I did bounce around between the 3 stories, just because that's how I played the Silver Case. But I think you can get away with playing like all of Matchmaker, all of Correctness, all of Placebo, just as you go. Yeah, this game, like I said, is just as neat as the Silver Case. It's probably more confusing than the Silver Case, but if you are interested, just recently on YouTube, there is a 25th Ward analysis series video, and I'm just gonna be a homie and plug this guy that I don't even know, but there's this guy named Genry Perez who does really long, Killer 7, or Kill the Past analysis videos. He has like a 3.5 hour long No More Heroes 3 retrospective. Like, he's wild. But anyway, he just released a set of videos on the 25th Ward, and those even helped me, like someone who's played this game more than once, kind of be like, oh, that's what was going on right there. Or it helps me, or they helped me think a little bit more about like, oh, is that what was going on? I kind of saw it this way. So they're very interesting videos. I would definitely check them out if you get the chance. And again, they will help you to kind of understand some of the wild ongoings in this game, or in any of the games that Suda has written, to be honest. So now we get into the fun meat and potatoes of Grasshopper Manufacture, the No More Heroes series. So most people here are familiar with No More Heroes, and they're familiar with its protagonist, Travis Touchdown. Basically, picture if Johnny Knoxville from Jackass had a lightsaber and wanted to kick ass because he wanted money, but also wanted a woman. You know, the most important things in life, money and women. Travis Touchdown knew, and he went for it. So it is a hack and slash style game with like pro wrestling finishing moves, because Suda51 freaking loves wrestling. It's in every game that he has penned. And in between your ranking matches, you kind of do mundane side jobs like mow the grass or pick up trash. You know, you got to grind to get your money. Travis Touchdown knows about that grind mindset. So that's all I'm going to say. This game, like I said, it was released on the Wii, and it was ported eventually, and you can play it on PC. So again, feel free to check it out. I think there's a reason that Travis Touchdown has kind of carved out a niche for himself in the video game world, and I think this series and this game is how you kind of find out about Travis and learn his origins and everything, and you also see how he kills the past, which is something I'll get into in a little bit. So thanks to the success, I guess, I mean, none of Grasshopper's games are like wildly successful, barring Lollipop Chainsaw, but that's because sex sells, as they say. But the success of No More Heroes led it to have 3 more games in the series that came after, the first of which being No More Heroes 2, Desperate Struggle. So this is also a Nintendo Wii game that was ported to the Nintendo Switch and PC a little later. It is a bit of a more somber tale than its predecessor, just because Travis has to kind of do it's more of a revenge tale than anything else. You're also able to play as 2 additional characters, which is pretty cool. You get to play as my girl, Shinobu Jacobs, but you also get to play as Travis's twin brother, Henry Cooldown. So that's pretty cool. If you like Henry, I don't know. Lots of comments. This game, I will say, was not as well received as No More Heroes 1. Its characters are a little flatter, its story's a little thinner, but that's not to say it's not worth checking out. It's definitely an important part in Travis's journey as a character. So yeah, and again, you can play it on PC. So after that, we have Travis Strikes Again, No More Heroes. And this is where things get interesting in the Sudaverse. Suddenly you have characters from the Silver Case making their appearance in Travis's universe, and you're like, what the heck is going on? But Travis Strikes Again is a really cool game. It's a Nintendo Switch game that has PS4 and PC ports. And it's kind of like a top-down hack and slash beat 'em up game, but it has a lot of additional unique gameplay segments like racing and role-playing and asteroid shooters, because it's kind of, the game itself is both a love letter to indie games, but also a commentary on the nature of game development and how grueling it can be, especially dealing with publishers and outside entities. It's kind of almost Suda's autobiography in a way. You can definitely read it like that, but you can also just play it as a cool No More Heroes action game. So it follows Travis and Badman, who is the father of an assassin from No More Heroes 1. Her name was Bad Girl. Travis obviously kills her. Badman's not very happy about that. Comes to kill Travis, but in a little bit of wackiness, they end up having to team up to get these death balls in order to resurrect Bad Girl. So if that story sounds familiar of gathering balls to resurrect things, you know, Suda's not that subtle. But regardless, that is the plot of the game, and it has co-op, so I actually got to play it with my spouse, and we had so much fun together. So if you do play this game, I highly recommend playing it co-op if able. I know sometimes it can be a little hard finding a buddy that also knows about this series, but if you're able to, it's so worth it. And then this game is also something of a stepping stone to No More Heroes 3. It kind of shows what Travis was doing in between 2 and 3. So yes, we did get another No More Heroes game. No More Heroes 3. This is the most recent entry in Travis's tale. It was released on the Switch and had ports to all modern consoles and PC, and it was kind of a return to form for the No More Heroes series. Like, it brought back the open world exploration that was missing from 2. It has all the silly side missions that you're used to, plenty of hack and slash gameplay, really refined. Like, Grasshopper really showed that they have refined their action gameplay development. Like, they're really solid with it. And plenty of unique boss battles as well. So in this game, Travis Touchdown has to come out of retirement to avenge his friends and save the world from the bloodthirsty alien Fu and his alien army that is basically out for conquest. And it's meant to be the end of Travis's journey, which it is. So we probably won't see much of Travis anymore, but he does have a very satisfying and overarching character arc. He does develop. It's really cool just to see how far he's come from 1 to 3. So definitely check those games out. So now you may be wondering, okay, I have all these games, how do I play them? So some kind people on the internet in the Kill the Past communities have made Kill the Past infographics that I'm gonna share here. They're a little hard to read, but you can very easily find them online by Googling Kill the Past play order or something along those lines. Yeah, so I know, don't expect to read this. It's more there just so you know they exist. It's a lot of text. It's everything that I just went over, basically, just condensed into fun little images. So I will say that the release order of playing the games is a totally valid way to play them, and you'll get the entire story that way. And I'll say I didn't make these, like I said, I didn't make these infographics. I do want to credit Twitter user Dreambomb and Reddit user Finn the Hunter for these, because they're very helpful and they get passed around on the internet a lot. But talking about like play order, like I said, release order is totally valid. It's a very easy way to experience the story in a way that makes sense. Some people might want to experience just the world of the Silver Case, and in that case, you'll want to play the Silver Case, Flower, Sun, and Rain, and the 25th Ward. Some people may just want to play No More Heroes, so then you play No More Heroes in order. It's not that hard. You may be wondering where Killer 7 kind of fits into all of this. Honestly, you can play it at any time. The main suggestion is to try to play everything that you can before you jump into Travis Strikes Again, because that's where the worlds that have been like building this whole time suddenly converge, is Travis Strikes Again. Because there is a visual novel section in that game that has tons of character cameo appearances from other prior Kill the Past games. So definitely want to play those before jumping into Travis Strikes Again. And then you end up with No More Heroes 3, and that's kind of the play order. So these infographics also talk about like Kill the Past adjacent games, so like things like Killer is Dead and Shadows of the Damned and stuff that's like is tangentially related to Kill the Past, but still exists in the Sudaverse. So those games are totally cool. Definitely check them out, but they're not like Kill the Past games, not required Kill the Past games, you know. So if you're curious, my play order was this. If you're wondering why Killer 7 is tacked on at the very end after everything, it's because I'm really bad at games with guns. I tend to I'm like, oh God, don't put a Magnum in my hand, this is not gonna go well. But I wanted to see it through. It was a grueling experience for me, because the gameplay is so unique, it's unlike anything else you'll really ever experience. But once you get the hang of it, it's pretty smooth, pretty cool. So that's why I played Killer 7 last, actually just like 2 years ago, so it hasn't even been that long ago. So now we'll talk a little bit about connecting the dots between these games. So yes, here he is, Suda51, our glorious creator. He's the brain behind all of this. And like I said, how do we know that these games exist in the same universe? There was an interview in 2017 with Suda where he literally says, I do feel like they all exist in the same world, in the same universe. You know, they live in different areas and won't come into contact or anything, but I do feel like they live in the same world. Not just the characters, but all the game elements too. So, you know, it's cool that Suda, he does outright say he's designing with an overarching universe in mind. In that quote, he does say the characters might not come in contact, but they do at some point, and that's what I want to talk about now. I want to talk about some cool character cameos, some cool crossover appearances, basically things that really help to cement like, oh yeah, these games are connected. So the very first character I want to talk about today, which is a difficult character to talk about, is Kamui Uehara. So Kamui Uehara, he gets his start in the Silver Case and is very integral to that plot. I don't want to talk about what happens to him, but I will say, I really don't want to spoil it. It's hard. But he's a very integral character, and you find out more about him in the Silver Case. However, when you start to play the 25th Ward, another character with the same name shows up, and you're like, what's going on? And that is this character that's depicted on the left here. He's he's a member of the Heinous Crimes Unit. He's kind of a faceless, very quiet detective. But he actually vanishes for like a huge chunk of the 25th Ward. He's just like not around. But then he shows up in the very last chapter to make a very critical decision. And one of these very critical decisions actually leads him down the road to meeting Travis Touchdown, which is kind of mind-blowing to me. To have a character from the 25th Ward suddenly crossing over with Travis Touchdown. And like I said, that happens in Travis Strikes Again. So he shows up in Travis Strikes Again. He meets up with Travis. He's helping him find the death balls. They become buddies. It's pretty cool. They both have bloodlust deep inside of them. And I think that's why they connect. It's very interesting. And they form a friendship, and that leads to him showing up in No More Heroes 3 again as Travis's friend. This time he's known as New Type Kamui. That's not really like expanded upon or anything, but that's just his title. He's the same dude that got to meet Travis, that was a detective in the 25th Ward, but he kind of looks different now. All good, don't worry about it. So yes, he is one of the most significant characters in the Kill the Past mythos, the Kill the Past universe. There are a lot of, I wish I could talk more about him because he's less of a character and more of like a concept or an idea. Kamui, especially in the Silver Case, kind of represents, he's like the personification of crime and transmittable violence and all that other kind of stuff that the Silver Case talks about. So yeah, he's very important, and he's also just kind of cool. So that is Kamui Uehara and his couple of appearances in the Kill the Past games. Then we have Dan Smith, who randomly shows up in Travis Strikes Again. So you're like, how does this happen? I don't know. I really can't tell you. Because like I said, Killer 7 can exist in the same world as No More Heroes, but Dan Smith just punches through that wall separating them and just shows up because he's on a mission. So he is actually coming to approach Badman, and they were going to have a pact to kill, well, Dan was going to kill Batman, and then they're like, let's kill Travis instead, and then it leads to all of Travis Strikes Again. But again, this was a really wild cameo to me. I was like, Dan Smith should not be here, but you know what? I'm going to roll with it. He's so cool anyway, so let him be in Travis Strikes Again. Speaking of the Smiths from Killer 7, you also have Garcian Smith showing up in this comic here, which I should have talked about a little bit earlier, but this comic called Red, Blue, and Green is set after the 25th Ward. You can find it online really easily by just typing in red, green, blue, I misspoke. But this kind of is a follow-up to the 25th Ward, and in it, Garcian Smith shows up. So again, it's like, why are members of the Smith Syndicate showing up in this universe? They just are. It's just kind of neat character kind of cameos and crossovers. And I also will say in this scene, they are meeting up at the Union Hotel, which is a very significant location in Killer 7. So just thought that was neat. Then you also have another companion comic in the Kill the Past world called Kurayami Dance. It is a 16-chapter manga, so like 2 volumes. It is a part of the Kill the Past world, but I didn't, make a slide for it because it's not a video game, it's a manga. But it is a part of the Kill the Past universe because you have appearances from the reporter from the Silver Case named Tokyo Morishima. He shows up, he's the guy smoking the cigarette in the bottom corner. But then also, Travis Touchdown makes an appearance in Kurayami Dance. So this manga, it's about a guy who's like, what if I go over 300 miles per hour on a motorcycle? What the heck would happen? And then you find out what the heck happens. So it's pretty cool. It's very bizarre, but it's worth reading. Again, very easy to find online. Like the Kill the Past community is really, really cool because they've made all this stuff super accessible to people that want to read it and watch it and whatever. It's there. So that is them in Kurayami Dance. Lastly, the last reoccurring character I want to talk about is the moon. So if you know anything about Suda, you know that he loves using imagery of the moon in everything that he does. He has gone saying that he appreciates the omnipresence of the moon. So, it's always there. It's always observing. That might be, that might be a little significant phrase to some of you, but the moon is always there. It's always observing. These are just screen caps of multiple different games that I talked about today that all feature the moon, and Suda really loves it. So next we're going to talk about, like I said, what does kill the past really even mean anyway? And why is the series called that? Well, one thing I'll say is that Suda sort of lives by this kill the past mantra. He has gone on saying, I have seen a lot of people who remain themselves by repeating the same things they've done in the past, and I really don't want to be like them. Killing the past is also synonymous with fighting the future, and what makes the future alive is facing the past and settling things. So Suda kind of succinctly sums up what kill the past means just in that sentence. It's literally, kind of what it says on the tin. You gotta do something about your past if you wanna grow as a person, if you wanna move on. Unfortunately, in the Kill the Past series, a lot of the times these confrontations with the past are very frequently violent, and I'm not sure if Suda is making a comment on how one has to kill their past to move on, but I'll say in most of these instances, they involve some acts of extreme violence. Some other themes that are in the Kill the Past games are, like I mentioned earlier, politics and political corruption, and also just organizations and corruptions. So you see a lot of political corruption in the Silver Case. There's a lot of behind the scenes going on in the 24th Ward. You see it in Killer 7. You don't really see it too much in No More Heroes, but you do have the idea of the UAA potentially being a corrupt or phony organization. So there is still a little bit of that going on. Another theme is rampant urban development and its effect on communities and societies. So for example, in the 25th Ward, it's a newly developed society. Everyone is kind of cooped up into one massive apartment building, and you kind of realize the tensions that form as communities start to break down, as things are developing around them. You even see it a little in No More Heroes 2, as Santa Destroy has suddenly become this crazy metropolis. So these comments come from Suda's own history. He moved from Nagano, which is which is a smaller prefecture, to Tokyo, and he kind of experienced this city shock in a way. So he really likes to talk about how cities and urbanization affect societies. The last thing that Kill the Past likes to talk about is the truth versus the fact. And those things may seem synonymous to you, but in the world of the Silver Case and in Kill the Past, what is presented as a fact might not actually be true. So it's basically the facts are distorted and cherry-picked by larger political organizations, and then that information is disseminated to society who sees it as truth, but it's not actually the truth. And I know this seems all very heady and philosophical, but it is one of the themes in the game. They talk a lot about the nature of truth versus fact, and I never really thought about it as being different until I was presented with the Silver Case. So next I'm going to go over, again, some of the characters that have killed the past and how they've gone about this, and some of the ongoings. So this is a screen cap from the Silver Case. It's not the first time that you see the phrase kill the past. You see it a little bit earlier in the Silver Case, but it's one of the times that it's really brought to the forefront. Suddenly the game presents you with an animated video that's in a completely different style, and it is one character has a very complex revenge plot. He has a lot of trauma, something very traumatic happened to him as a child. He formulates a very complex revenge plot in order to kill his past, and this screenshot shows up at the whole culmination of said character trying to kill their past. So it's really cool to see suddenly this really awesome anime screenshot. This guy, he jumps into like a flaming smokestack and essentially commits suicide it's like a suicide bombing plot. It's very insane. But it's, like I mentioned, how violence becomes very tied into this idea of killing the past. I just like this quote. This is said by one of the detectives from the Heinous Crimes Unit. He says, "Will you live by killing your past, or will you die by clinging to your past?" So again, this idea of needing to actually, confront your past is brought to the forefront. They say that you will literally die if you cling to your past. You got to do something about it. So next is a screenshot from Flower, Sun, and Rain. So this is the penultimate chapter, and once again, they literally throw it right in your face. This is a kill the past game. This character is going to kill his past. It's, again, tied to the silver case. I don't want to spoil it too much, but once again, there is a character, Sumio, who I mentioned, who really needs to come to terms with his past in order to move on. And Flower, Sun, and Rain is essentially a game about that. Next, we have Garcian Smith once again. He is featured here, known as the man who killed the past. This screenshot is actually from the Killer 7 companion book, Hand in Killer 7. It's like this cool little companion book that is supposed to explain all the goings-ons of Killer 7, but honestly, it contradicts it like 40% of the time. I don't know. But regardless, Garcian Smith has one of the coolest sort of killing the past arcs that of a lot of the characters. I don't want to talk about it, but the climax of Killer 7, like the voice acting, the intensity, the reveal, it's just so much, and it's so good. So you really, by playing Killer 7, you find out why they call Garcian Smith the man who killed the past. Because he has a past to him. He has a lot. I even had to black out a spoiler on this image because I didn't want you guys to see it. So please play Killer 7 for a mind-blowing reveal. The next is a screenshot from the 25th Ward. This is going back to reporter Tokyo Morishima. He has been a consistent character through all of the Kill the Past games. He shows up. He shows up in Flower, Sun, and Rain as well. So he's been a consistent character experiencing pretty much the entirety of the Silver Case saga, and he goes through a lot. So he says, the past takes people over, and once it does, it won't let go. He says, even if killed, it won't die, it won't disappear. So in this case, it almost seems contradictory to what Suda is saying. This guy's saying, oh, even if you kill your past, you won't be able to escape it. But let me say, this guy has gone through so much garbage that I understand why he has such a pessimistic view on the idea of killing the past and escaping it. He has a lot of baggage. But I will say he is successful in killing his past. He does take drastic actions at the end of the 25th Ward to escape his past. And I'll say that he's one character that he has a happy ending, actually, once you play through it. So I would say he's a good example of killing the past and moving forward. So next we have another screenshot from No More Heroes. This is from the battle between Travis Touchdown and Kimmy Love. And they are having a rap battle. It's a little ridiculous in true No More Heroes fashion. And Kimmy says, it's time to wake up and kill the past. And honestly, it has no significance to really anything. I swear to God, this was just thrown in here to make the fans go, oh my God, they said kill the past. Because I was one of those fans that went, oh my God, they said it. Like, because they really hadn't talked much about kill the past in any of the No More Heroes games, like, you know, up until them throwing it in your face. I will say Travis is a character that does have to confront his past. This is probably the only time I'll talk a smidge about spoilers. It's for No More Heroes 1. But I will say that Travis has to confront his half-sister at the very end of that game, and quite literally needs to kill his past in order to kind of move on. He has a lot of baggage involving his family trauma. Travis saw his parents brutally murdered in front of him. It's probably why he's the way that he is. He clings to the memory of a woman that he loves that he doesn't even know. So Travis has a lot of things kind of holding him back. And at the end of No More Heroes 1, he's able to really bring those to the forefront, able to confront those, but his journey doesn't end there. He still has a lot more to go through in all the other No More Heroes games in order to become the Travis who gets the girl and even has some kids. So good for him, you know? So lastly, this is, once again, Kamui Uehara from No More Heroes 3, and he comes to us in No More Heroes 3. He literally, they shut down all the lights, the spotlight goes on, Kamui Uehara walks into the forefront, and he has this grandiose speech all about killing the past and destroying the life and all these themes and ideas that have been discussed in all these other prior Kill the Past games. And suddenly they're being brought to you in No More Heroes, a game where you never really thought about that much to begin with. So it kind of reframes a lot of No More Heroes, if you think about it in a Kill the Past perspective. It's really cool, it's really interesting. And this whole scene was probably just like fan service in a way. Like they just had Kamui show up and do this grandiose speech. And once again, you're supposed to point at the screen and be like, oh my God. And I once again did that. I fall for it every time. So then I will just end with this quote that I have found in both the red, green, and blue comics and also just kind of floating around. It kind of, you know, again, sums up whatever the meaning of Kill the Past is. Things are really kind of summed up here, and Kamui Uehara is always waiting for all of us. So I hope that you guys take a moment to play the games and meet this character. But before we finally wrap this up, I did want to shamelessly plug Romeo is a Dead Man. This game is Grasshopper Manufacture's newest project. It is releasing in literally a month, February 11th of this year. It is being self-published by Grasshopper because they are the true kings of punk. They know what's up. So please, if you want to support Suda51, if you want to support any of these games, check out Romeo's a Dead Man. And I will say that this game, from some previews that just came out this week, is being shown to be a part of the Kill the Past universe. I almost hesitate to say that, but there are some character cameos that are already popping up, and we're like, okay, why is the 25th Ward in Romeo is a Dead Man? It is. Why is No More Heroes 3 in Romeo is a Dead Man? It is. We don't know yet, but find out more by playing it soon. So yeah, thank you guys for coming. Yay! Yeah, I just wanted to give a special thanks to my friend Colin, who made the No More Heroes Travis stickers that I handed out. If you didn't get a sticker, I have a few more Travis Touchdown stickers up here. Feel free to come grab one. I also wanted to thank the company Scenes of Explicit Violence. They make really cool Kill the Past apparel, so check them out. They made my whole outfit that I'm wearing today. And then I also want to thank you guys for attending. Yeah, here are my so sorry, I didn't mean to get so close. Here are my socials. Feel free to hit me up. Talk about Kill the Past. I love it. I love you guys for attending. Please have a kick-ass MAGFest. Go enjoy yourselves. Be free.